do some exercise here. A little noisy. So, sorry about the light. That's how it goes, but it's cool is that I'm by myself here. But there's a big switch. I'm going to turn it on. And then you'll see there's a lot of stuff that lights up. Hang on, let's see if I can position it right. And you'll see, so turn on this switch here. Oh, you can't see it. You can't see it. There's a switch there. I'm going to push it. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, it is this guy. Press that switch. All these lights turn on. This part. Okay, I think I have it zoomed. There you go. I'm holding this a little different because I have my Kindle with me as well. I wanted to open up, read from the scriptures again. I can do that before I start exercising here. I want to talk about cervical instability. And to preface this, I have a, what do you call it? A dubious anniversary. 20 years using a cell phone. This is actually another pretty important message. I'm going to put my Kindle down so I can hold this right. But they're still fixing the library behind me. It's probably going to turn out pretty nice when they're done. But see, I turn on that switch and turn on all these lights throughout this big park. Not every, well, a lot of them, probably half the lights. But I want to talk about here. Okay, all right. So I'll be more specific in a moment. But though it's windy, obviously, I don't like when my beard splits too, so I'll move my head. So, 20 years ago, I started using a cell phone, and I'd say over 10 years ago, started using internet integrated handheld device with it was, the first one was an HP, and it was sort of like a BlackBerry type thing, but it was like a cheap kind of version of it. Then I had, other ones, and now I have the one I'm using now, which is obviously so-called smartphone. But 20 years of me looking down like this too at times at the device, going like this, looking at it. And imagine how you look. You're like this, Imagine doing that for 20 years. The 2003 is when I got my first cell phone. Of course, that starts it. I mean, if you're reading books, you engage in similar things, obviously, if you're not mindful of your posture. But with using smartphones, you can be bending your head down, and what I've learned of recently is a thing called cervical instability, and it's just a fancy word for your neck ain't being right. Neck ain't right, and I don't have like big issues, but when you go like this and you just want to lift your head up sometimes like this, and sometimes you might, hear a snap, crackle, pop. That's something that has to do with, something needs to be better with your posture. I mean, at least that's a safe answer for that. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist in this, but I have learned about cervical instability from Dr. Ross Hauser, who I've seen a couple times for other things regarding to like ligament repair work. But he does the same, uses the same principles in helping neck issues. At any rate, I haven't had him do treatment on my neck necessarily. I have it done on shoulder a couple times from taking it too far and stuff with some weightlifting or whatever. Well, weightlifting and the like, pretty much just weightlifting. Anyway, but we look down so much, we need to look up, and I mean, I literally put this into a song that I'm going to release. I'm going to mix and master it tonight. Uh, it's not going to be too long. I might carry it into tomorrow. I don't know, but I don't really want to have to do that. But so I want to get to this workout here, back to the old grindstone with the outdoor thing. I can just flip it. Yep, this is the deal. This is it. And but cervical instability, you can mess with your cervical spine and end up, um, if you're really, I mean, it can happen through injuries, of course, and that's the most acute damage of cervical instability is through like car accidents, things of that nature. Um, if you're a massive headbanger, first off, that's kind of retarded. You have to stop doing that. It's because it's dumb. But not only are you thrashing your brain around, you're messing your neck up, and it, if your curve changes and becomes more, if it doesn't have the natural um, lordosis where it curves inward, whereas your upper spine should be kyphotic, where it, you know, I don't know how to say this, it curves like that, but your lower spine should be like this, that's lordosis, and also your neck should be curved, when, you know, forward, it should be curved forward. But this doctor is saying how so many people can mess with that natural curve by even just so much cell phone use, and he's witnessed damaged neck issues that leading to all kinds of impingement of like the vagus nerve and impingement of natural functions like removing metabolic waste from your brain. Because also it's a double whammy when you take in so much information through your phone, and so much useless information is what I really mean. So much stimulus, all this information, things that you, and a lot of times is not, you know, useful information. It can't even really be connected, sort of disjointed data. All this stuff can just build up. You talk about brain fatigue. Like when you've been in school, or if you're just working real hard on studying something, over time you feel a little fatigued, and that's because you are working your brain a lot, taking in a lot of. And sometimes you could be doing it the wrong way. But think about it: when we take in all the social media and all these a lot of things by so-called experts, we get tricked into thinking this is somehow worth our time. And we, regardless of the good or bad that we take in our minds, there is a metabolic waste material that builds up in the brain, a fluid that needs to be released. And if our necks are always impinged like this, and if our sleep posture isn't right as well, I need to actually get a new pillow. I already got a new pillow several months ago, but I realized it's not helping my neck have the best natural curve, and it feels off. And sometimes I've been a little dizzy getting up, not because of the pillow, but if I feel like some things are catching up. And so this is sort of apropos of 20-year anniversary of having a cell phone and using it, um, doing inadvertently messing with my mind with posture. And so I've been a lot more aware of posture. You know, um, I want to look up very often. It feels good right away when I even doing this. It's like you're stuck. Me looking at this, I'm like stuck at looking at this thing down when I can like just behold, like look, you know, just enjoy, enjoy. It's nighttime, but still look up. There's, I mean, right now for me it's nighttime, but you just got to enjoy, and it's a lot better, especially when in the daytime, when in like the fall, you get beautiful turn of colors and so forth. But I want to read from the scriptures and not take up a lot of time with this, but from it's pretty it's pretty helpful from Proverbs 4. It's the end of Proverbs chapter 4. I'll read it from my Kindle right here. Okay, I'll just read the whole passage, but focus on a couple. My son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Now, this is essentially from uh, Solomon, King Solomon, who is at his time the man with greatest wisdom. Though he, near the end of his story, made some very unwise decisions with women. Even the most wise man can be greatly thwarted um, by the allure of beautiful woman. Men have to watch their heart. And so this is essentially, the Proverbs are essentially words of wisdom. It's God's wisdom, but in the form of something that is palatable in bite-sized pieces for especially young people. It's in the it has a narrative style of the delivery style. I should say the style of delivery of a father, a godly man who is teaching his son. And so, my son, give attention to my words, incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your sight. Keep them in the midst of your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and health to all their body. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and devious speech far from you. Let your eyes look directly ahead, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Watch the path of your feet, and all your ways will be established. Do not turn to the right nor to the left. Turn your foot from evil. So this has to do with in everything, don't let yourself be, don't forget uh, wisdom given, and it says, the sayings that we're to hold on to, they're life to those who find them, health to all their body. So I'm connecting that with health to my body. It's health to my body to um, let my eyes look directly ahead, not to be looking up and down. Like you have a purpose here, and it's not to be taken up with things that don't set you forward. That's one way to look at it. Why should we have eyes directly ahead? Well, that's where you're going is where you're headed. If we look to the left while we're headed somewhere else, we're bound to have our noggin hit on the light post, like what happened to me when I was a child, um, 12, 13 maybe, walking a bike, and I was looking at some kid talking. He was with me and another friend, and he wasn't much of a friend. He just laughed his butt off after I went bam right the side of my head. I'm looking like this, went this big metal light post. I'll never forget that. And he was saying, "You're an idiot." He repeatedly said that, and he told people in school. Yeah, you know, some of these things happen for a reason. Well, they all happen for a reason, but for to teach us something about looking directly ahead. That's a metaphor for something that's also very spiritual, though. What my illustration? We can't say we're headed to better ourselves, and yet then, you know, hanging out with people that just want to get drunk with you, with us, or whatever. As an example, I don't know. You don't, whatever you can relate to. It's like what ahead is. You're going somewhere. Let your eyes focus ahead of you. and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. It's very practical, not just in the spiritual, but I also just want to glean from that the need to, you know, be the meta thinker, as it were. You know, take the aerial view and the low view, see the forest and the trees, and don't get distracted with the devices. I'm using this again. This is practical use, but you know, let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. And I think I take that as don't be looking down at your devices as well. I'm just trying to milk that for what it's worth regarding this cervical instability piece, because a lot of people are hurting themselves. I see people that look like zombies. This kid almost walked into me yesterday, and I was just staring at him while he's staring down at his phone. And he's walking closer, and I could see him. He started to head right toward me, and then he kind of stops and looks up, and he's like, "Oh, sorry." You know, I'm sure that's happened to you. That's pretty stupid. You want to. It's like there's such a simple thing, but we don't want to do it because we want to be entertained. We want to feel better. We want to feel loved. We want to feel just anything that's different than than somehow we think the current situation, to the right here, right now, this current second, this current minute is somehow incomplete without me giving place to this addictive behavior I'm not even thinking twice about. You can't be like that. You can't be like that. Don't give place to what is can ultimately lead to your downfall, and even have leading to even these physical consequences. If you impinge the vagus nerve, it's connected to so many functions of your body. If you have your head cocked down all the time, and you're blocking metabolic waste from leaving your brain. This is what this doctor was talking about. If you do this too much, and so it's like there's a brain toilet function in your brain, in your head, where when you sleep and you have normal, if you have good posture and you're sleeping, so you need good time, but the posture, there's a natural release. There's a lot of waste that is expelling, or a good amount what is needed to be, expelled. And so if our sleep isn't right, and if our posture is junky with just our neck, and let alone having bad back posture, um, it can lead to a whole host of problems. And this doctor was saying there's also more kids that are coming in with like brain foggy issues, and he attributes a lot of it to the impingement that's going on in this canal that's in your neck. Um, Very interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, it's weird how time flies with this. It's only about 19 minutes. But look up. Okay. If you look weird, hey, I do this like a lot, even when I'm sitting down meeting, and if I feel that little snap, little crackle, I know that it's because I've maybe been just looking down just enough where it adds up, or then gas needs to be released in some fashion, because that's what happens when you like crack your knuckles or something, releasing gas, even though it can take a toll on your joints. At any rate, I'm not a doctor, okay? But the lesson's simple and doesn't need a doctor to give it. Um, get off your phone, live your life, pursue what you're called to do. If you're a UE programmer for mobile devices, even then, you don't need to be having your head cocked down, and I almost came out wrong. Have your head cocked down and just amusing yourself to death, just like Neil Postman's book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, which I have only read a little bit about. I've only read a little bit from that book, Neil Postman's book. I'm not big. I'm not a aficionado of some of that style of writing. It's some people are just claim so much like this expertise, and it comes across as like kind of pretentious sometimes. But anyway, I'd have to reread that. Anyway, okay. Um, get off your phone. I'm gonna work out, so do it. Do what you gotta do.